Welcome back. Thank you so very much for joining me. Pardon me. Many people think I only take and collect accounts from the UK and Europe, and that is where most of my attention has been concentrated over the last decade. But in reality, I've been collecting worldwide accounts for a very long time now, hoping one day somebody may want to chat with me about them. I feel very lucky to have met and interviewed witnesses from all across the globe. Today, I was contacted by a gentleman named Reddy, who was in touch with another gentleman in Nepal whose grandfather was kidnapped by a Yeti when he was a young man out working one day. And Reddy reached out to me on the Facebook page with his report of Bigfoot sighting. So Reddy went on to explain, I am in acquaintance with a man who is originally from Nepal. His name is Bo, and he told me about his grandfather and an experience he had many years ago when he was a much younger man, and he was taken away by a Yeti. The grandfather was out in the terrace land working on a rice paddy field in Nepal. It was a very quiet work day. Nothing unusual happened until suddenly there was a loud noise from the woods which encircled the fields. The grandfather turned to where he thought the noise was coming from, and as he did, the forest opened up in front of him. Then, to his complete shock, a giant hairy beast came running towards him from the trees, and it grabbed him as if he was as light as a child. The creature ran off from the area and took Boo's grandfather with him and stopped at the entrance to a cave. The creature kept him in the cave for many weeks. Boo said his family went out searching for his grandfather for a long time, but there was no sign of him anywhere. So they started to fear the worst. Then one night, as the family were all in the house, there was a faint knock on the door, and it was Boo's grandfather, their son and brother, who had escaped from the Yeti. He said he was captured, kept, and fed by the creature. The Yeti would bring him roots and grubs and some wild meat. And then one day, when the creature was asleep, he crept out of the cave and escaped back to his home. Boo said his grandfather was very ill and traumatized by the whole experience, and he felt he was lucky to be alive. Boo believed his grandfather, as he was a good, honest man, and he's never known his grandfather to lie, as he's very proud. A Sherpa woman stated that a snowman came up from behind her, hit her on the head, and killed her yaks. A 19-year-old Sherpa woman says she encountered the abominable snowman while she was tending a herd of yaks in the Himalayan district of Khumbu. The Nepalese news agency said the woman was knocked unconscious by the creature, whose height was said to be 1.5 meters tall, and it was very hairy. The Yeti then killed 3 of her yaks. The Sherpa's name was Lakpa Dolma, and at the time of the incident she was aged 19. Lakpa lived in the Kumyung village near Everest and was tending her family's herd of yaks alone in the remote pasture named Makermo, near Gokhyo Lake, when she heard the sound of coughing. When she was looking around to see where this noise was coming from, she was suddenly confronted by a huge monkey-like creature. According to her, the Yeti, as she described it, was about 5 feet tall and incredibly strong. It had a dark facial complexion, deep set eyes, a wrinkled forehead, and thick, stout fingers with long nails. While the upper part of the Yeti's body was covered with brown hair, the lower hair had a darker tinge to it. The Yeti walked on 2 feet and down on all fours like a monkey, though it was slower when it was walking on all fours, said Lakpa. Lakpa then watched in horror as the Yeti then attacked the yaks she was tending. The Yeti was punching them and twisting their horns in an effort to break their necks. The Yeti killed and ate the brain of 3 yaks, taking away a portion of one of the yaks as it left. Now, the Nepali police, it is said, confirmed the assault, and a photographer even recorded strange footprints at the scene. Sometimes later, a Japanese and Polish base camp were also reportedly attacked by a similar creature. Maps of the Cumbar Valley even mention and give warning to the area between Dole and Makermo as the site of Yeti attacks. A Japanese team finds Yeti footprints in Nepal. Now the footprints pictured here beside footprints is a print that's beside a human footprint, is a print that the Japanese team thinks could be that of the Yeti. The footprints were about 20 centimeters, which is 8 inches long, and looked like a human foot. Yoshiteru Takahashi, the leader of the Yeti Project Japan, told AFP in Kathmandu. Mr. Takahashi was speaking after he returned with his 7-member team from their third attempt to track down the man-made half-ape known as the Yeti. Oh, not the man-made. I'm really sorry about that. Mr. Takahashi was speaking after he returned with his 7-member team from their third attempt to track down the half-man, half-ape known as the Yeti, tales of which have gripped the imaginations of Western adventurers and mountaineers for decades. The team has been taking part in a 42-day expedition into the mountains of Nepal. Mr. Takahashi said the footprints were proof of the elusive creature. Myself and other team members have been coming to the Himalayas for years, and we can recognise bear, deer, wolves and snow leopard prints, and it was none of those, he said. We remained convinced that it is real. The footprints and the stories the locals tell us make us sure that it is not imaginary, he added. The team had set out they'd set out 9 motion-sensitive cameras in an area where Mr. Takahashi saw what he thought was a Yeti during a previous expedition in 2003. It was about 200 metres away in silhouette. It was walking on 2 legs like a human, and it looked about 150 centimetres tall. Now, despite their lack of success this time, the team plans to continue the quest. We will come back as soon as we can, and we will keep coming back until we get the Yeti on film. Mr. Takahashi said that he would return with another team. It was in May of 2019 that the Indian Army also claimed to have captured footprints of the mystical creature. And these are the said prints. Now, the Yeti legend that has encompassed the entire length of the Himalayas is timeless. Reports of sightings have ranged from the state of Tripura in East India to the Karakoram range that spans the borders of Pakistan, India and China. Now, the search for the cryptid creature dates back to the time of Alexander the Great in 326 BC. Now, the Macedonian leader, whilst on his way to conquer the Indus Valley, stopped at Kashmir, where, having heard tales of the Yeti, he asked to see one for himself. Now, the first Western account of a hairy ape man roaming the mountains of Asia came from a 15th century European mercenary in Mongolia. But it was Eric Shipton's world-famous picture of supposedly Yeti prints in the snow of the Moulin Glacier in 1951 that started a craze that continued well into the 70s when Lakpa's account of the attack on her yaks was reported by the police in Nepal. Now, climbers survived assault by a Yeti-like creature August 2018, so not that long ago. A tourist expedition to the Himalayas turned into a nightmare after an American tourist and 2 local guides were savagely attacked by a creature resembling a hairy giant humanoid, reports the Kathmandu Herald. Jason Barkley, 28, was on a solo adventure across the Himalayas with his 2 local Sherpa when he was attacked during the night by what he believed was a bear. The creature lashed through his tent and started to shove the half-asleep man around, who somehow managed to stay still despite his fear. I thought I was going to die, so I played dead, he told the Kathmandu Herald. Barkley finally realised that the creature was in fact not a bear when he came into direct eye contact with the beast. It flipped my body around violently, and then I could see his face in the darkness. It looked deeply into my eyes. It had the face of an orangutan or some sort of ape. I noticed he said his face. He explained. Although it was dark and the attack occurred at night, both Sherpa believe it was a Yeti and not a bear, as bears do not climb at these altitudes, they explained to the Kathmandu Herald. Now, a Yeti creature of Gobi Altai, 2001. On the 26th of June 2001, the English language newspaper, the Mongolian Messenger, reported this story. A mysterious Yeti-like creature attacked a driving school teacher in the mountains of Gobi Altai, Armagh, earlier this month. The lady was attacked at 12:20 p.m. on June the 8th in the mountains by a creature she described as a strong and hairy thing, which jumped about on its hind legs like a monkey. The creature was frightened off by the loud noise made by her travelling companions, who were shouting and banging in the hopes of scaring off the weird hairy creature, which seemed to do the trick, as it disappeared into the mountains, reported Zuni Madi. Now, the diehards on the trail of the Yeti. It was nearly 40 years ago, but Yuan Yeho remembers his brush with China's answer to Bigfoot like it was only yesterday. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the former soldier recalled. He explained what happened on that day in 1981, when his expedition in the northwest Hubei province was interrupted by the sight of a black and red humanoid animal walking upright on a sunny mountain slope. Its speed was very fast, but it was walking, not running, Yuan said. As the creature ranged across the mountain in Fang County, bordering the Shenandoah District Forest, it walked faster than a human ran. Yuan quickly loaded his rifle and took aim at the figure. But before he could pull the trigger, his colleague intervened. "Don't you dare shoot," Yuan recalled his colleague saying. "If you do, and it turns out to be a human, and you've wounded or killed it, and it's not a Yeti, then what will happen?" The beast continued up the peak and disappeared behind a cliff, according to Yuan. Into the wild, man sees Yeti-like creature during an expedition in 1981. Yun Yao, 70, said he initially did not believe in the creature when he was recruited for the 1977 state expedition, but he became a believer, he said, after his first Yeren sighting during an expedition in 1981. The figure he swears he saw that day was about 2.2 meters tall, since its head was visible above the surrounding forest. Although we found no footprints that day or hair at the scene, he made a plaster cast of the giant 40-centimetre footprint he found in a nearby forest that year, believing it came from the same species. Now, the footprint was about twice the size of a human print, and it remains in one's possession to this day. "I've seen all of these areas and all the wild animals, and there are none I don't recognise," said Juan, who grew up in the area and still lives there. Bears and golden snub-nosed monkeys cannot walk more than 3 to 5 steps on their hind legs, he said, disputing the claim that the footprint could have been made by a known animal. Li Guho, 68, became similarly captivated by the Yeren legend after coming to the area to work as a lumberjack in 1972. He states he glimpsed the creature 5 times between 1980 and 2005. Including once in February 1980 while on a solo research expedition. "I sat on a cliff to rest after hauling my equipment," he said. "Suddenly I heard footsteps and I saw a Yeren, which some people call the Yeti, walking towards me. It was very tall, at least 2.5 meters tall, taller than the tallest human. It was about 60 meters away when I saw it," Lai said, when he whipped out his gun and aimed at the creature. "I was looking at the Yeren with all my concentration, and it was likewise staring at me," he said. "I tried to target its lower body, since I wanted to injure it so it could not walk towards me. But as soon as I pulled the trigger, I missed my target. I fired again and again, but I could not hit it. The being then turned and fled, leaving a trail of footprints in the snow, as Lai unsuccessfully pursued it," he said. Since then, Lai has dedicated his life to solving the mystery of the Yeren. He now spends several months a year living out of a makeshift hut in the mountains, frequently risking his life by venturing outside in harsh conditions. Lai blamed scientists for hampering the effort to prove the creature's existence by dismissing the testimony of local people, who he said have actually seen it. Eyewitnesses come from all walks of life, he said, including tourists, students, soldiers, and even Communist Party members. The latter were behind the most influential sighting in 1976, which spurred the 1977 government-funded expedition. Now, I'm not going to be able to say this. Chen Liansheng, 71, was then a high-ranking local government official who purportedly had an encounter with a strange creature on a remote forest road in Shenzhen while travelling back from a work conference. At about 4 a.m. on May the 14th, 1976, he and his 5 colleagues were awakened by the driver shouting that something strange was on the roadway up ahead of them. The driver stopped about a metre away from the animal, Chen said. 3 of us in total got out of the car. It was so near that we could touch it. The startled creature froze for a moment in the glare of the headlights as the driver beeped the horn a few times. It was covered in red fur, he said, and its face was human-like, with upright ears and a protruding mouth. Its ears did not reflect light like a human eye. Its arms were thin, but its lower half was very thick like a cow, and it didn't have a tail. We have never seen anything like this in a zoo. It wasn't a cow or a bear. One of Chen's colleagues threw a stone at the beast, but it leapt across a ditch and disappeared into the shrubbery. The next day, Chen, who later became a Hubei television journalist, filled a report out about the incident with the Chinese Academy of Sciences and notified the local government. When he returned to the spot, he found around 20 bright red hairs, all of which were subsequently donated to museums or researchers or lost. On the trail of the Indian Yeti, Dipu Marik has travelled through the area his family live to hear for himself compelling evidence of the existence of a black and grey ape-like animal which stands about 3 metres, nearly 10 feet tall. There have been repeated reports of sightings over many years by different witnesses in the west, south and east Garo Hills. Mr. Marek estimates the creature weighs about 300 kilos, so about 660 pounds, and is herbivorous, surviving on fruit, roots, and tree bark. There is no shortage of people who say they have seen the creature firsthand. Take woodcutter Nelbison Sangma, for example, who works on the fringes of the Norek National Park in the Garo Hills. In November 2003, he says he saw a Yeti 3 days in a row. He took Mark from his village to the spot where he says he made the sighting. It was a 5-hour walk in intense tropical heat from his house. Mark said, the gentleman said, I saw the creature quite clearly on the other side of the river. It was breaking branches off trees and eating the sap. Its strength was amazing. Obviously, I wanted to photograph it, but I knew that if I left the area, it would take at least 10 hours or more to get to a camera, as I do not own one. By that time, the creature would have disappeared. Mr. Sangma says that he told the State Forestry Department of his sighting, but they did not believe him. He took me to the spot where he says the Yeti destroyed a tree, said Marek, an exhausting uphill walk through thick jungle infested with blood-sucking leeches. Mr. Sangma showed me where the creature broke the tree's branches, and there, for all to see, were clearly visible scratch marks on the bark. Now, a 10-hour drive away from Nokrek is the other national park of Garo Hills, which lies amid thick jungle on the border of Bangladesh. It is an extremely remote area. Perhaps the most famous reported sighting was in April of 2002, when Forestry Officer James Marak, no relation, was among a team of 14 officials carrying out a census for tigers in the Balpakram when they saw what they thought was a Yeti. Dipu Marak has correspondence from various eyewitnesses to support his contention that there is something out there. To critics who say he has no photographs of this mysterious creature, He insists the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Excellent argument, Diffu. We have so many reports of sightings. I sincerely believe there is some sort of huge creature in the Garo Hills, he said. The truth is out there somewhere, says Dipu, sincerely. Now, although the most common depiction of the Yeti is that of a tall, usually 7 feet or above, hairy creature, descriptions from numerous encounters have led researchers to identify 3 known types. And the first known type, I am told, is the Nile Mo, I think, which is the largest of the 3. It's believed to be 15 feet tall. They are bear-like and extremely dangerous and thought to be led by females. Said to be man-eaters, they usually hunt yaks by holding them by the horns and twisting their necks. This killing method corresponds exactly with the incident at Makemo, although the height of that creature was only 5 feet tall. It is rumoured that the Nyalmo also capture and mate with humans. The Shuti is the second kind of Yeti, standing about 8 feet tall. They are said to be black and hairy with short necks, and similar to the Nyalmo, have feet that are smaller than their hands. They are both vegetarian and carnivorous and live between 8,000 to 10,000 feet, lower than the altitudes where the Nyalmo reside. Now, the third breed is the Banchakara, a forest shaman, or the Ringshim-Bombo. Although most Yeti researchers do not consider them Yetis as such. The shortest of all the Yetis are only 3 to 5 feet tall. They are said to be covered in very long golden or red hair and inhabit forests in the lower altitudes of the Himalayas. Said to be ancient spirits or nature shamans, caretakers of the earthly and spiritual realm. The Sherpa and the villagers revere the Ringshim Bombo. So there we have it. The Yeti, like most of the countries in the world, there is a tall, upright, hairy creature, and it's being seen by people, and it seems to be being seen by people more and more and more. What are your views on that? Do you think that we get more sightings due to ease of being able to report it? Are they showing themselves more? If they're showing themselves more, is there a reason that they're showing themselves more? If you think you've got a theory on that, or you want to come chat with me about it, that would be wonderful. Jump on and chat with the others on here, and we'll record it and we'll put it out as an episode, because we need as many opinions as there are out there. No matter what you think about your experience, whether you think it fits or not, that doesn't matter at BBR. So forget that. If it's happened and it's strange and you can't explain it, well, we're the people you need to come to. Because believe me, across the world, there are lots of people who are going through or have gone through probably something similar or the same to what you've experienced. And hopefully we'll be able to get you a little bit of validation, and we might be able to find somebody else who validates from your report. So until next time, and to all the future witnesses out there, I'll be back. Good night.